Some investigators say that once you begin looking into modern marriage scams, the scale of the problem is shocking. As holidays approach, matchmaking events appear everywhere again. Recently, several victims came forward describing losses of hundreds of thousands of yuan. They had also handed over gold jewelry and paid many additional expenses. Modern relationship scams have evolved far beyond the simple tricks people once expected. The first step usually begins with romance and emotional connection. After trust forms, requests for money slowly begin to appear. Houses, cars, renovations, clothing, and jewelry all become part of the story. There is always a relative in trouble or a sudden financial emergency. By the time marriage discussions begin, the emotional trap is already set and the bride price suddenly skyrockets. Someone asked a young man why he was nearly 30 and still not married. He sighed and answered that he wanted love, but the woman wanted financial rescue. He said he treated her like treasure, yet she treated him like a credit line. And if divorce ever came, he feared half his life could disappear overnight. Listening to stories like this, it feels like receiving a brutal education about modern relationships. Some people claim they are looking for love, but in reality, they are chasing a man's money. Men sometimes lose everything in the process: their savings, their assets, even their trust. Speaking openly about this reality often triggers anger and backlash online. Critics mock the idea that men should protect their resources before commitment. But the deeper frustration comes from feeling manipulated by sweet words. Some people drain a partner's money and disappear the moment the resources run dry. Then they quietly move on, searching for the next person to support them. That is why some men now warn each other not to spend heavily before a relationship is defined. Because the money men earn comes from years of effort and sacrifice. And sometimes, all that effort still means nothing in the end. One woman once told him, "You said you're willing to spend money on me, so buy me this cosmetic." He answered calmly that being willing to spend money is not the same as being ordered to do it. Giving willingly can be affection, but demanding it turns love into a transaction. Every dollar he earns comes from trading time, labor, and even his health. So he wonders why someone who contributes nothing should feel entitled to it. In the past, he spent money happily because the relationship brought him joy. But the moment money becomes something owed, the feeling changes instantly. If the conversation becomes about money, then it inevitably becomes about value. And value is always something that must be exchanged. If love truly isn't about money, then loyalty during difficult times should prove it. Because real relationships should be built on sincerity rather than entitlement. Some people assume men cannot tell when affection is aimed at their wallet. But the saddest thing for many men is not having little money. It is realizing the money they gave was the only thing truly valued. One woman explained that she was born in 1990 and is already 35 years old. People often ask her why she is still single, despite not being unattractive. What they don't understand is that once a woman reaches a certain age, the dating pool changes dramatically. Many of the men introduced to her are already divorced, some with children. Truly single men become surprisingly rare. Meanwhile, men of the same age can still be introduced to younger women. Another woman says that after the new year, she turned 36 and still has no husband or children. She even jokes that she would send a large red envelope to anyone who could introduce her to a suitable bachelor. Approaching 40 without finding the father of her future child fills her with anxiety. Another single woman says she is 35 and her expectations are modest. She only hopes to meet a man earning a stable income. Some women even say they must marry this year, even if the wedding happens quickly. Parents reassure others that their daughter is not for sale. They simply want someone willing to build a life together. Families begin actively searching for matches as the pressure grows. Many wonder why older men can still find younger partners while older women struggle. The answer is often uncomfortable. Older men are sometimes willing to spend more money. Yet modern dating also carries illusions about how relationships work. One illusion is believing millions of ideal men are waiting somewhere to pursue them. Another illusion is believing the perfect partner exists, just not yet discovered. And some still imagine that if love fails, they can simply marry wealth instead. So why do many women today feel no one is pursuing them anymore? The answer, some say, is brutally simple. Many men have quietly decided to stop trying. In their eyes, the cost of pursuing a relationship has become too high. If you spend no money, people say you are not sincere. But if you try seriously and fail, you become the one who lost everything. Many capable men and women simply stand still, waiting for the other side to move first. One man recalls going on 5 blind dates in a single year. When he calculated the expenses, he had already spent more than 3,000 yuan. 3 of those dates ended immediately after the first meeting. 2 others initially seemed promising, but one woman admitted she only attended because her family forced her to. The second talked with him for 2 months before suddenly disappearing. There was no explanation, no confrontation, only silence. By the end of the year, every attempt at dating had failed again. His only conclusion was to trust his instincts and stop forcing something that felt wrong. People often criticize men today for being stingy in relationships. But before judging them, it may be worth asking a few honest questions. Can anyone truly promise that every relationship will end in marriage? If a man empties his savings in one relationship and it fails, where will the money come from next time? For many men today, caution is not cruelty, it is simply survival. One day, a shocking question appeared online asking whether men who never marry should still be required to pay a bride price. Some people even speculate about a future where unmarried men might be taxed simply for staying single. The debate goes further, with voices suggesting men should still pay even if they never marry. In other words, even avoiding marriage may not free someone from financial expectations. The logic feels strange. Asking for money while expecting the man to kneel in gratitude. Sometimes you can tell whether a marriage will succeed just by watching how the bride price discussion unfolds. One family recalled how the atmosphere froze the moment the topic of money entered the conversation. The bride and her mother insisted that not a single yuan could be reduced. Instead of 2 families preparing for a life together, it felt like a tense business negotiation. In another marriage within the same family, the atmosphere could not have been more different. Both families laughed and talked together at a restaurant while discussing the wedding. The bride price was mostly symbolic, simply a gesture of goodwill. The contrast between the 2 situations was impossible to ignore. Sometimes, when the conversation around money feels wrong, the wisest decision may be to walk away. Some people insist that bride price is simply tradition and must be respected. But if tradition truly matters, whose tradition should take priority? If someone simply wants money, perhaps it would be more honest to say it directly. Words like respect and attitude are often used to disguise financial demands. Some parents argue that a man unwilling to spend money on a woman is not worth marrying. Others reply that a woman who only asks for money is equally unsuitable. In reality, the size of a bride price has never guaranteed a happy marriage. A video once circulated showing a rural family delivering engagement gifts in a truck. The vehicle was packed with boxes of instant noodles, drinks, cigarettes, alcohol, and even livestock. Commenters estimated that the gifts alone were worth tens of thousands of yuan, and that estimate did not even include the bride price itself. In some cases, the bride price alone could reach nearly 300,000 yuan. Add a house and a car to the list, and suddenly the cost of marriage climbs past 1 million. Many people ask how much money it actually takes to get married today. A typical rural example begins with a house down payment. Then come renovation costs and the purchase of a car. After that, there are engagement gifts, gold jewelry, and wedding banquets. When everything is added together, the total can exceed 700,000 yuan. Even after collecting wedding gifts from guests, families may still spend hundreds of thousands. Faced with numbers like these, it becomes easier to understand why many young people hesitate to marry. Another difficult reality appears when marrying someone who already has children. A man may feel as if he spent his life building a future that ultimately belongs to someone else. Stories like these remind people to think carefully before stepping into marriage out of sympathy alone. Some voices openly say they feel little sympathy for older single women searching for partners. Many of those women ask why they never encounter good men. Critics respond that the issue may not be scarcity, but expectations. The question then becomes who truly qualifies as excellent in the dating market. Observers sometimes point to countries like Korea, where dating crises developed over many years. In marriage, people often say both sides must bring something to the table. Yet some demands focus heavily on cars, houses, and bride price. Beauty can certainly provide an advantage in dating. But appearance alone rarely guarantees long-term commitment. Maintaining dozens of backup partners may appear powerful at first. Yet many people become wary of committing to someone who treats relationships like options on a shelf. When commitment finally matters, loyalty becomes the true currency. One satirical matchmaking story exaggerates the dynamic even further. A self-proclaimed campus beauty declares that pursuing her requires millions in bride price. She also demands an expensive apartment in a prestigious school district. In her words, a goddess deserves nothing less. yet her own income barely reaches a few thousand yuan per month. She even carries large personal debts from luxury spending. Naturally, she expects her future husband to repay those debts as well. On top of that, she demands tens of thousands in monthly spending money. After buying her a house, he should appear whenever she calls. But when the man suggests building a family together, she immediately rejects the idea. Another problem in modern relationships is that many people refuse to admit they are ordinary. Instead, they continue searching for partners who seem exceptional in every way. But relationships often work best when ordinary people choose ordinary partners. Some observers even question where the phrase high-quality leftover women originally came from. They compare the idea to fruit left at a supermarket stand late in the evening. By that time, most shoppers have already taken the best apples. Yet somehow, people are asked to believe the sweetest one remains untouched. Because of this logic, some men say they would rather remain single than take that risk. Critics argue that unrealistic expectations often play a role. Some individuals want not only support for their future life, they also expect compensation for the years that have already passed. For men searching for a stable partner, that situation can feel dangerous. So many conclude that walking away entirely might be the safer option. One uncomfortable question often appears in dating discussions. Why do older men sometimes find younger partners more easily than older women do? The explanation offered by some observers is simple but controversial. Older men are often more willing to spend money in relationships. That financial willingness quietly reshapes attraction patterns. Economic power begins to influence who pursues whom. In many cases, money becomes part of the romantic equation. Status, income, and resources gradually shape expectations. And those expectations change how people evaluate potential partners. In the background, attraction becomes entangled with financial leverage. Some people believe that giving more money automatically stabilizes a relationship, but reality often proves more complicated. In many relationships, the more someone gives without limits, the less that effort is valued. When something arrives too easily, people often forget how difficult it was to obtain. Expensive gifts like houses or cars may appear impressive at first, but over time, they quietly reshape expectations. What once felt extraordinary begins to seem normal. Appreciation slowly fades as generosity becomes routine. Attention shifts away from gratitude and toward perceived shortcomings. Ironically, the more someone sacrifices, the easier it becomes for others to overlook that effort. The imbalance grows quietly beneath the surface. What began as kindness eventually feels like obligation. Expectations continue rising until even large sacrifices feel insufficient. Many people misunderstand this dynamic because they underestimate human psychology. Simply giving more rarely fixes deeper relationship problems. Without balance and mutual respect, generosity alone cannot sustain a partnership. One reason marriage rates continue to fall is the growing fear surrounding commitment. For many men today, the fear of marriage has begun to outweigh the desire for it. People often assume marriage only requires buying a house, a car, and paying a bride price. But the real pressure begins after the wedding. The responsibility to keep earning money never truly stops. Financial stress, family obligations, and emotional support continue year after year. Household responsibilities and childcare only add to the pressure. If income suddenly drops, the entire marriage can become fragile. In many households, the stability of the relationship depends heavily on one person's income. Compared with the past, the cost of maintaining a marriage has changed dramatically. Marriage once meant two people supporting each other through life. Now it can feel like a high-risk investment. People invest time, money, and emotion while hoping nothing ever goes wrong. But when divorces appear increasingly common, that gamble begins to look frightening. Some people argue that if bride price exists, then dowry should exist as well. If one side demands security, the other side may demand guarantees in return. Some even propose agreements stating that whoever betrays the marriage should leave with nothing. If bride price proves a man's sincerity, some ask whether a dowry should prove the same. If having children benefits the husband's family, why should responsibility fall only on one side? If a house must include both names, perhaps the down payment should also be shared. Yet when negotiations begin, the rules often seem to favor only one side. A man who listens to his parents may quickly be labeled a mama's boy. Everyone says they want security in relationships. but the definition of security remains unclear. Does it mean endless proof of love through gifts and money? Or does it mean one person must constantly suppress their frustrations? If that is security, people begin asking where the other person's security comes from. When someone invests so much yet still feels replaceable, doubt inevitably appears. Social comparison and rising expectations only intensify that tension. Eventually, the fantasy of perfect romance collides with the realities of everyday life. Some people warn that if extreme self-centered dating advice spreads further, marriage rates could collapse. Advice encouraging men to focus only on themselves is becoming increasingly common online, but relationships rarely survive when both sides stop investing emotionally. In some discussions, people even suggest unmarried men should still be financially responsible in some way. That kind of thinking deepens the sense that expectations are becoming one-sided. When demands feel unreasonable, frustration quietly spreads between the two sides. And slowly, the suspicion grows that love itself may just be another financial transaction. In reality, many capable men and women are simply standing still. One matchmaker describes a strange pattern after years of introducing couples. Some people can find a partner within minutes. Surprisingly, those who marry quickly often have very ordinary conditions. So the real question becomes why so many others remain single. In many cases, the issue is passivity. Some women have strong education, supportive families, and attractive appearances. Yet even when they lower their expectations, men still hesitate to pursue them, because ultimately many people in relationships are searching for character rather than status. The truth is not that women must desperately chase men. The difference often lies in the experience someone creates during interaction. Warmth and openness can transform the entire atmosphere of a relationship. One example involved a highly educated engineer earning 20,000 yuan a month. The woman who eventually won his heart was not the most impressive on paper. What ultimately mattered was sincerity and initiative rather than perfect credentials. In one troubled marriage, a simple question slowly became a heavy burden. Could someone truly accept marrying a partner who already had a child? The husband struggled internally with his wife's son from a previous marriage, even though the child did not live with them full time. The tension slowly built until small disagreements turned into constant conflict. Old grievances resurfaced and resentment quietly grew. What once began as love gradually transformed into distance and blame. Yet when the father finally saw his young daughter again, something inside him softened. In that fragile moment, the anger faded, revealing how complicated inhuman family bonds truly are.